Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most better. And today I am pleased to have mom blogger turned entrepreneur Sonal. Sonal, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Phil.
So now I do have this lengthy description of who you are because, smartly I had the form filled out beforehand. But why don't you introduce yourself to my guests so that they can get to know you firsthand?
Sure. So I'm Sonal Ambassador. I'm the founder of Nourish Food for Life, and I'm a qualified nutrition health coach. I'm passionate about helping time-strapped mums and women take control of their plates and well-being so that they and their families can live more healthily.
I love it. It's a great thing because growing up, I know my mom was running around with 3 kids.
Not
And
an easy task.
like that by itself is not an easy task. I can say I was a handful. I will
Were you?
honestly say I was. I'll
Hands
admit
up.
it. Cards on the table here. I was a handful. So I like to take things apart. And so there's times I was like undoing a door when my dad was walking in. I'm not supposed to be touching his tools. My mom's trying to take care of my baby brother and my older sister. So yeah, I was a handful. So knowing how time-strapped my mom was and how busy she was, nutrition, having you being able to show them some great nutritional tips is great. So I want to start at the beginning. Have you always been an entrepreneurial person, or do you come from the 9 to 5 world?
Definitely come from the 9 to 5 world. I have over 12 years experience in the city in London. So yeah, fresh out of university, I went to work for a corporate trustee. I did that for over 12 years. And just somewhere along the lines, I was feeling like this isn't kind of cutting it for me anymore. It's not creatively fulfilling me.
Mhm.
Kind of done with the whole 9 to 5. And my son, being a big part of my journey is becoming a mum. When I had my son, became a lot more interested in a scientific way about health. It wasn't just about trying to lose weight, as all us women tend to do at some point in our lives. And I actually wanted to understand how the body worked, and how nutrition can play into that, because I've had my own trials and tribulations with food, and I understood just how deeply food can impact our health. So it's what started off as me persuading my boss to let me have 10 consecutive Wednesdays off so I could go and study at Leith School of Food and Wine, which is no easy task, but I managed it. So I went off to Leeds, which is a school of food and wine where we learned about nutrition and
Leeds is,
practice.
by the way, is beautiful. I had the chance in 2019 to visit a
Have
few of
you
my friends.
been?
Yes, I spent 72 hours
Fabulous.
in England. I landed on
Amazing.
Friday morning in London, saw the crown jewels, jumped on the train the next day up to Leeds to meet up with a fellow podcaster.
Amazing.
Um, and we had a night out, and we actually invited a whole bunch of European, well, mostly English and Scottish podcasters to meet up in Leeds to have a little
Fab.
mini meet.
So you know
Um,
exactly how amazing the place is.
oh yeah, it's gorgeous. It's amazing. It's a weird mix of like old and new, and like
Yes.
like what I like to call, for North American people, the Middle Ages for us. But it's
Yeah.
like this like industrial like mixture between like old English style buildings and the more modern stuff that you have now. So you got this like
Yep.
in between. So I
Mm.
loved it. It's a gorgeous city.
It's beautiful. So yeah, I went and experimented at a time when I was busiest in my life. I decided to add
Mhm.
another string to my bow. But actually, what that showed me was that there was more to life, and I didn't have to stay stuck in the city. There was this whole other world, that had been opened up to me should I wish to explore it. And really, it lit a fire under me, let's say in a polite way, and meant that I went on and decided to, ask to go part time at work. I decided to retrain as a nutrition coach off the back of the basic education I'd received at Leith's. And it really set off for me my whole new career path, which I hadn't anticipated, which I didn't think I'd have the balls for, if I'm being completely honest. But sometimes there's something that comes into your life and it changes things, and you've got to see where it leads.
Yeah, no, I love it. I do want to ask, because you did ask for the 4 days off, the 10 weeks off of
Yes.
Wednesdays. Um, did that come from reading like Tim Ferriss's book? Because I know he he talks about that.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. That really just stems from the fact that I wanted to do something different. I was really fed up. When you're just craving, you're busy, your life is kind of hectic, but you're craving something that's going to
Yes.
have you firing on all cylinders.
A
And for
passion.
me,
You just need that
exactly,
drive.
absolutely, that's exactly it. And for me, it was, I was learning about nutrition. I was, for the first time in my life, actually giving him monkeys about cooking and from scratch because of my child. And I just thought I would love to learn this for my family and be able to do better for them and for myself. Um, so what started as a hobby, and I just thought I'm just going to do this for my family, quickly, very quickly in fact, led to me wanting to actually rechange and ditch the city and do something completely different.
Amazing. I love it because it's it's our generation. Like I think anybody under like 45, I'm saying, just has this drive, like they don't want to do the 9 to 5 anymore because we saw our parents how draining it is, and as we got into it, we found how draining it is.
Mm. Well, I think for me, the story is slightly different in that my parents
Mm,
were immigrants to the UK from India. So they've always worked very hard, not necessarily in a 9 to 5. So they've been doing a bit more of the hard backbreaking stuff.
yeah.
And I've seen them work hard. And then they wanted a good education for me. I went off and did that. And then suddenly I was like, this isn't cutting the mustard. I'm going to go and do something myself. So for them, they're clutching their heads in despair, thinking, child, what are you doing? I don't care if you're, 32, 35. Like, don't do this. Stick to the
It's not
stability.
how you make money. It's
No,
not how you
exactly.
do it. We
Exactly,
didn't
like,
spend all that time destroying our backs for you to go willy-nilly on the internet. No.
absolutely, exactly that. But for me, it was having worked in the city for 10 years, I just wanted something else for my life. I don't believe that that's the only route for us. It's the traditional route when you're brown, um, and especially when you have immigrant parents. But um, for me, it's about creating a life that is fulfilling for me and my family. And the 9 to 5 just did not provide that because mentally, I am not in the space to be very giving to my child, or he won't get the best of me because it's a corporate world. We all know
Oh
what's
yeah,
that
yeah, no.
like.
I am so
So
happy I got out of the corporate world. My God.
really, yeah. How many years have you been out of it?
It actually just this is like it's not even a year yet. I've been out of the corporate world.
But you're free.
Yeah, I'm free. I'm so happy. It's weird because for the last 12 years of my life, I've been in the corporate world, like
Yeah.
just working nonstop in like a 9 to 5 job. So having that structure, like knowing I have to go in, sit down at my desk and do work, get up, break, and then like a robotic pretty much.
Mm,
And now that I'm not in that 9 to 5, that I have literally 24 hours that I can get the job done that I need to get done. For the first couple weeks, it was very unnerving because
mm,
I was like, I don't know if I'm doing anything for my business. Like, what am I doing? Like, it's that unnerving feeling because you don't
yeah.
have that structure after having it for like pretty much 35 years of my life from
Hmm.
school all the way up. Like, it's now I'm free
Yeah.
to do whatever I want. So it's like, wow.
Revolutionary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's scary because it's like, why isn't everybody doing this? Like, I know a lot of people who hate their job. Like,
Yeah.
this is so easy.
Well, I don't know about easy. I think
Well,
there are trials
it's
and
depend.
tribulations.
Yeah, it's easy. What I mean by easy, not like it's easy to start because it's a lot of work to build your
Mm,
presence. Like I started before I quit my job
yep,
to get to where I am today. Like you have to, there's a build up presence, but once the
absolutely.
ball starts rolling and you understand it, it's like everything else just becomes a little easier when you start looking at
Mm,
learning because I think the way we grew up in schools and how they taught us is like we have to be somewhat challenged,
yes.
and in the corporate world you're never challenged unless you're lucky enough to have a job that's like every single day is a different day, but
Mhm,
the majority of us are stuck in this robotic 9 to 5.
absolutely. And I think one of the big things for me was when I left corporate, actually, like you say, the freedom can be liberating, but it can also be, what the hell am I supposed to be doing with myself? Like, how do I best spend my time? Do I have to work 9 to 5 anymore? Or can I, work at 3 o'clock in the morning? And
Yeah,
actually being free from that routine of someone else's routine, basically, not yours, and working to the own ebbs and flow of your energy levels when you work best was something that I absolutely love. And I think if I had to go back to a job now, I'd find it very, very difficult not working to my own, to my own stride and to my own schedule.
it is weird because I picked up a side hustle because most of my job I'm sitting down or
Mm,
standing interviewing, like I'm not moving, I'm very sediment. So I picked up a side hustle, if you will, at the local pub so that I can get a workout
Fab.
because it's like I'm being a busboy, so I'm doing all the physical labor, so I don't have to pay
Hmm.
for a gym because I'm getting my cardio, I'm getting my weight
Fabulous.
training. So I'm getting paid to work out, plus I'm getting my exercise that I need for the day, so I don't feel like I'm, sediment. And I feel it at the end of the day, like after a shift, you feel like you've worked, and
Hmm.
so you like that recovery the next day where you kind of like just sitting on your computer sending out emails, you don't feel so bad because it's like I'm resting, but I'm working at the same time from
Yes.
yesterday. You feel that
I love it.
accomplishment.
Yeah. No, that's a good way of looking at it, actually.
Um, so how long have you been the mompreneur, like mom blogger, mompreneur, doing this, doing it at free time? Since you've asked me, since I've answered that, how long have you been like corporate free, if you will?
So I left my corporate job, I think it was in 2018. And I spent a year retraining. We were also getting, stuff done to our house. So that kind of took up a larger proportion of my time. So been properly practicing what I've been doing at the beginning of 2020. So, fabulous time to start,
Yeah,
working for yourself, of course. Um, but I've actually found that um, getting started in the pandemic has helped because it's made me think of things that I perhaps wouldn't have done otherwise. So, for instance, one of the things I do is I run a cookery class for kids.
oh,
Um, and it's not just cooking because it's all about going beyond baking and encouraging children to cook from scratch and enjoy being in the kitchen and embracing
mhm.
creativity. um, so I started off doing that towards the end of 2019 at home, which was carnage, as you can imagine.
I can only imagine having like 8-year-olds running around trying to
Yeah,
cook.
I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but anyway, I mean, I was very enthusiastic about my mission. So I had a few sessions of those, and they went really well. But come 2020, I was like, right, I've got to move online to see if this works. And I'm not the most technologically adept person. It takes me a lot. Once I get it, fab. But it doesn't come to me naturally. There are far other things that are in my zone of my zone of genius.
Yeah,
Technology probably doesn't fall into that. And it was like being comfortable presenting on screen, being visible, making sure I can G up the kids and keep that enthusiasm that I normally have in person,
yeah,
um, online. And actually, what really struck me was how much better the kids learn online because they're not being distracted by their friends. They're in their own kitchen. So, actually, what it meant was that the children who are learning online, they're a lot more focused. They're actually really learning. Um, but then they're really happy to go and replicate those meals by themselves because they've already done it in the kitchen. So they know where everything is and the comfort level is there. And I hadn't expected that because I really thought that for myself personally and as well as children, they'd enjoy it more in person. But touch wood, so far they're enjoying it. So for me, there's not much incentive to go back to doing it in person.
no, plus it's a lot less crazy because you don't have like
Yeah.
10 8-year-olds running around
Hmm.
with being able to hurt themselves, and you have the other parents there to keep guidance over their kids, so you're protected in there insurance wise, you're just safe.
Yeah. Well,
um
yeah. There is that as well. And I think the kitchen, I mean, I have to clear the mess afterwards, which,
yeah, you only have
yeah,
to clear one small mess, not 19
yes.
afterwards. But also you can teach more kids, so you can have more kids coming in and learning
Mm.
about.
And yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
you're not you're not restricted by geography. So I've had
That
people join from Chicago. I've had a family join from Dubai, which I never would have thought would have been possible. But all of a sudden, their family's joining, so they want to join too. It makes it a bit of a nightmare to work out what the best timing is, but um, you can make it work. And that I found that that was definitely an opportunity I would not have canvassed had the pandemic not happened.
Oh, I love it. I think we're seeing like 2020 was the year of growth for digital entrepreneurs. I think a lot of people found out that hey, you can actually make money online, and technology like jumped from the stone age to the digital age so
Yeah,
quickly, with like the likes of Zoom, StreamYard, what we're using right now, and so many other amazing platforms.
absolutely.
And like just to help entrepreneurs learn how to create a funnel or you start building their links and their email list to grow. It's an amazing time.
It's been a massive push, I think, and it's really helped a lot of people think differently,
Mm.
um, and challenge themselves a bit, and not have that comfort level that things are just going to be working like this forever. It sparked a lot of creativity in people and made them pivot in what they do, and I think that can only be a good thing.
Oh yeah, no, it's amazing because I've had the opportunity interview entrepreneurs like yourself. I have had a few mompreneurs on the podcast, and it's just amazing the way mothers think so much differently than everybody else. Because I've interviewed over 200 people by now, but mom entrepreneurs and anybody who started in 2020 their business think way differently than the older generations.
What would you say is the main difference?
For moms, they care more. They were always client focused, like making the best for their customers
Hmm.
and making sure they're happy because they take it like as a family. Like they look at
Yeah.
more as a family. Their team is a family, and their customers are part of their family, bringing them in. Whereas guys are kind of looking like more males in the older generations are looking, how can I get as many people as possible to sell to them?
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
it's like
Fair
moms
observation.
it's like moms are very focused in on their ideal client and who they want to serve, whereas some of the older generations of entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs, are like, how can we get the most people as possible? Because that's where we
Hmm.
make the most money.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's an amazing time. I love it. I love the shift of culture thinking in that, and more people and more families getting financially free too is amazing as well. And you're helping them with teaching them first with cooking, because if you're not cooking properly and you're not eating well, you can't nourish your body for life.
Exactly.
I want to know a tip, like either in your niche of nourishment and food knowledge, or just for a tip for entrepreneurs when you're starting out. Like, what's something that you learned that you wish that you want to impart on a younger generation coming into the entrepreneurial world?
So I'm going to give you buy one get one free. I'm going to do one tip each. So
Yes, I love
as
it.
the value, it's all about the value.
Yeah.
So from the entrepreneurial side, what I'd say is I think there's a lot of people who have made it big very, very quickly. And it's very easy, I think, to go into social media or, look at a YouTuber and think, wow, they've done amazing and they've done it in such a short space of time. I can do that. And I think the reality is it's not as easy as that. Now, that's not to say it can't be done, but I think be realistic about the time, the money you have to invest in bettering yourself and getting the skills that you perhaps don't have to reach the goals that you set. Aim high, but also don't beat yourself up if you're not, you haven't got 1 million followers after 2 years, because you don't really need 1 million followers after 2 years. But it's more about focus on the quality and focus on making the connections with the right people, and the rest of it will follow. And stay in your own lane. Don't worry about what other people are doing. You could be doing exactly the same thing as another person, but they'll be doing it their way and you'll be doing it yours. And as long as you have faith in your approach and the confidence to just deliver in your way, do things in your own unique way that no one else can replicate, you'll get there. It may take a while, but the success will be there.
Ooh, I love it. Oh my god, that's just clipped. Like that whole thing is now the clip for the sharing of the social media, because it's just pure golden nuggets here on the show. And if you don't have to give a second one, because that one was just like more value than ever.
I can do a quick one for you. So on the nutrition side, I think a lot of us have moved away from cooking at home. And I'm not one of these people that loves cooking, guys. I'll be honest with you. But I see the value in taking the time, energy, and effort in cooking from scratch and nourishing your family with, things that don't have crap in them, things that aren't processed, things that aren't inflammatory to us. So my biggest tip to everyone would be take the time to cook from scratch a bit more, and you'll see big transformations in how you feel in yourself, how your family will feel. And it doesn't have to be your Michelin starred meals. It can be simple stuff that you batch cook, and then but you're saving time and energy. But do make that time to cook from scratch more. If nothing else, seeing you cook will encourage your children to embrace cooking from scratch more.
Oh, I love cooking. Like cooking is probably one
Do
of my
you
I do. And I was always scared to cook because I
really?
never really cooked at home. I
Uh-huh.
was my mom would cook and then serve it, and I would like make mac and cheese or hot dog, like the really like bachelor style foods that like guys are supposed to be the only ones able to make, right?
Yeah.
Or the barbecue. Like I could barbecue up a storm, but never really cooked from scratch. And then I started doing we have a meal service here called Hello Fresh.
Yes, we have that here too.
Okay. And I would order them and I would make the meals. I'm like, wow, this is pretty easy. And it's like
Mm.
a whole variety of meals. And then so I just kept the cards and I would just go out and buy the ingredients and just make them again and add my own flavor because I like more spicy foods.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
so like I would just add more. Like they said, like one of them was like a jalapeno burger. Like only add. Remember to take out the seeds because they're hot. I'm like, no, let's add the seeds. They make
I
it
want
better.
the seeds.
I
Yeah,
want the seeds.
add
Like
two. But I
so.
think that's where the magic happens, that we're quite lucky in that, like HelloFresh, it's a simple way of
Mhm.
cooking from scratch without having to think about food. But you're still getting real food into
Oh
your
yeah.
diet that is very nourishing. And like you say, I think with all of these things, once you've made a recipe once, you can always think of ways of improving it or making it your own. And I love that you carried on using the recipe cards and making it your own way.
Yeah, like, I had a few friends were like, "Wow, it's so expensive. Why do you get it?" I'm like, "The real money's in these cards because if I like the meal, I can replicate it
Yep.
over and over." And then when I had my brother over recently, and I was never ever like, I never understood how to make gravy because my
Hmm.
mom would make it, and it's like, "How did you do that? That's magic." And I
Yeah.
would try like how I think, and it would never work out. But I got a recipe before pan-fried, chicken with homemade gravy.
Perfect.
And I tried it, I'm like, "Oh my god, this is delicious." And then I made it for my brother when he was over, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is, like, the best thing you've ever cooked, and you've cooked, like, great steaks." Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just it's worthwhile because then you look like this Michelin star chef when you serve it because it's like, "Wow, you made that from scratch?"
Yep.
Yes.
And that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of these things that, even one generation ago, our parents would have made from scratch, we now can get in a jar. And, and we've got so used to doing that. But actually, going back to basics means stuff tastes so damn good. And you can
Oh,
personalize it to how you want it. You can make it as spicy as you want it. You can put your own slant on it. And I think that's really where the magic happens. One of the services I offer is a um, personalized cookbook. So it's not a meal plan in the sense of you have this many macros, you have this many calories, but it's giving people base recipes that they can then personalize to their own individual needs, and loads of different ways of repurposing meals. And, I just think for people who are short on time, that kind of thing is invaluable because you've got your base recipes, the different alternatives you can do, boom, you've lit a fire under them that they can actually make these meals, and it's exciting. They're using different vegetables that they wouldn't use, different grains that they would use than they would usually use. So yeah, I think sometimes we just need someone to inspire us, don't we, to do things differently.
it's that simple. Someone because like we don't know what we're missing. Like I don't like I at the pub I work at,
Mm,
we have some Middle Eastern people, so they make curries. So like they're Indian, so they make the curries, and it's like we have curry on the menu in an Irish pub, and but
yeah,
it's one of our best selling menus. Like it's one of the
nice.
best selling items on the menu because people just love the flavor of it, and I
I
think that's
think
what's we're missing more flavor in the world.
yep. And the thing is, when you start cooking from scratch more, because you're not using processed foods, you're not using things that are fillers, you can pack more nutrition in there. One
Mhm.
thing I always say, we focus on having lots of fruit and vegetables, like how many portions of vegetables and fruit are you having on a day? But actually, if we think in terms of plant food, and this irrespective of whether you're vegetarian, vegan, and omnivore, pescatarian, flexitarian, it doesn't really matter. We could all do with eating more plant foods. And by
Yeah.
plant foods, I mean vegetables and fruits, of course, but then also your herbs and your spices, because those are packed with health supportive compounds. That really, if you're making your own pesto, that's going to be far better than you can get in the shop. It's going to taste damn good and far better, but also you can really make it with anti-inflammatory oils like olive oil rather than what they're probably using, like a low grade oil that contributes to inflammation. And I think taking back that control over what you're putting into your body can be really empowering and a foundation of living more healthfully.
Yeah. Oh my God. So true. Like if we look at I like places like China or, you know, Tokyo where or Japan, their lifespan is so much longer than North American. It's because they're eating more healthier. They're eating like fresh food.
That's right. Yep. I think we've been sport in the Western world because
Yes.
what we think works for us, like having all this choice, having all these convenience foods at our beck and call, that's actually taken us further away from how we should be eating, and eating in a way that is nourishing. We're actually feeding disease when we're eating processed foods, when we're eating things in packets. That's not to say we can never eat them, but I think we really have to be honest with ourselves about what we're putting into our bodies and what it's doing to us. And unfortunately, the nutritional world, the wellness world, has become so skewed, so faddy, that sometimes for the layperson it can be difficult to figure out what
Yeah,
healthy eating looks like, which is ridiculous. But that's the
healthy eating is
situation we've
just.
created.
I found the best for healthy eating is just when you think you have enough vegetables, add more.
Yeah, a good
Just
base rule to go from.
it's if you think you have enough, just add a bit more, and then you're safe. Like it never hurts because one, you like these vegetables, so why not have more of them?
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, something I talk to a lot of my clients about is this idea. Over here, the NHS recommends that you have 5 portions of vegetables and fruit. Again, they don't make any mention of herbs and spices, um, but those can be included in that. But there's evidence to suggest that having closer to 10 portions means that you're actually protecting yourself from disease. So if you're going to a point where you're just maintaining your health at 5 a day, but you're then protecting yourself from disease at 10 a day, I mean, it becomes quite obvious which one we should be striving for, isn't it? But
yeah,
we don't hear about the 10 a day as much. It's a big push that I make. And I think what you said, adding a little bit more veg, it's as simple as that. Have what you would normally have, add a bit more, always strive for more.
yeah. I like it because like I'm trying to decrease my amount of meat that I eat. I don't want to become a vegetarian or
Hmm.
a vegan. I'm like, I realize that like eating a lot of red meat and eat a lot of chicken, like it's not the best thing. So and I still need flavor because I need to get filled. I'm a big guy. I need to feel full. So I'm
Yeah.
like, let's just replace the extra serving of like a meat portion with like an extra serving of vegetables. That way, I still get filled. I get nutrients, and it's a more filling meal than just
Mm.
pure protein.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that I would say that if you're having a good cut of meat, I'm vegetarian, but I still advocate people eating meat if they should they choose to wish to, because I think it is rich in iron, it is rich in nutrients. So for a while we've been told to cut down on all these things, but actually, if you're getting a good cut of meat and you're pairing that with vegetables and a good source of fat, then that's a pretty damn good healthy meal.
Mhm. It's it. I think we got scared back, like, oh, this is no good, like fatty acids are no
Yep.
good, then fatty acids were good, and then carbohydrates were bad, then carbohydrates are good. Like it's a constant, like we're just getting these like not fully formed sentences about
Hmm.
or idea about nutrition, when it's like, a solid coloring of fruits and veggies on your plate with
Yep.
a just a about the size of your fist, I think is a good size for a cut of meat. And then
Yep.
and then that's pretty much it. And like, I guess dairy or something. I don't know really. I just do veggies
Hmm.
and meat. That's usually my meals. Simple. Try and keep it as simple as possible for me. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's a great place to start. And I think the more vegetables we can pump into our diet, the better from a nutritional point of view, because you're getting your vitamins and minerals in, but also it's going to be good fiber for your gut. And we hear a lot nowadays about our gut health and how that impacts our immune system, our fertility, our our brain and our mood. So I think at the foundation of everything, we've got to be thinking of the health of our gut and having a variety of plant foods. So that's your vegetables, fruits, herbs, and spices. I say this a lot, but I think it's worth reiterating. It's going to ensure that you get as much diversity into your gut microbiome, and that sets us up for good health. So, no brainer there.
yeah. No, it's like you said, no brainer. I am curious. In your journey so far since 2019, or even before that, in the beginning of your decision to move into a more entrepreneurial world, what has been your favorite moment so far in your journey, would you say?
Probably right at the beginning when I first when I did really well at least, and I was thinking I can make this into something, should I have the guts to leave the stability of a city job? And I ruminated on it a while, and I just got to a point where I was like, my son's starting school, I want to be the one that does pickups and drop-offs. I'm going to ask if they'll let me go down a few days at work. And everyone around me was saying, they're not going to give you 3 days, you're not going to be allowed to work 3 days, it's just not going to happen. And I just in an instant made the decision, because that was my gut telling me that I need to do this. I was like, no, I will ask for 3 days, and whether they give it or not is a different matter, but that's what I want, and I'm going to go for what I want. and let's see how that pans out. And initially they said no. And I told them that's absolutely fine, but if you can't accommodate that, I will be handing my notice in. And that wasn't an empty threat. That wasn't me trying to throw my weight around. That was just, this is what I want for my life. This is what I want. And you can either accommodate me and you can't. And if you can't, that's fine. We'll part ways. And I did actually end up handing in my notice. And before I left, they created a role for me when for the 3 days, doing exactly, giving me free reign to work from home, working really odd hours compared to everyone else. But I was given a project management role, so I didn't have to necessarily be working the same times as everyone, as long as I communicated well. And that for me was a win, because I can create my own. I can be the creator of my own destiny. That sounds like really like woo woo, but
No, but
it can
you
be
just
empowering.
proved it. You just proved, like, you asked, and it's something like, so I brought up Tim Ferriss's The 4 Hour Work Week because
Mhm.
in it he does mention that. He says this is how you get yourself away from the 9 to 5 and
Yep.
start moving from a corporate world into the digital not necessarily digital entrepreneur world, but a financial freedom world, is that you just ask and you go, let's try it for a test period. Like, they tested it with you for the Wednesdays off. You still kept your professional life going, as well as your side, like your
Mhm.
learning. And then when you went, look, I need 3 days a week, this is what I want. If you guys can't, I understand, like, no hard feelings, like, I am asking a lot, but I need to give my notice at that point. And then they realized, like, it wasn't an empty threat.
Yeah.
And you someone said no, and you're like, no, I'm going to do it because I
Yeah.
can.
I know, and I think everyone around me was like thinking, "What is she doing?" But I think I had such confidence in what I wanted to achieve, and that I could do it, that I was like, "Well, sack it off. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a go." And I actually did the 3-day role for, I think it was close to a year, and they asked me to stay on. And I by that point, I knew that I didn't want to be in the corporate world. I was kind of really done with it. And I thought, well, I can stay on just for the money, but actually, I don't want to become a wage slave. And as I have
Yeah.
been for the past 12 years, and I'm not enjoying it anymore. And I did leave. And I think at that point, people thought I'd lost the bloody plot, because I had the days I wanted, the hours I wanted, the flexibility I wanted. And I was still saying, no, I want more. And people were like, what are you doing?
I think it's because people they're scared of what, like, they have what they think is security,
Hmm.
but they're scared of what their unknown. Like, when you strike out on your own, you gain so much more back than
Oh,
actually
gosh.
having a 9 to 5. Like, you forget, because for so long of our lives, we're in this world where we don't control anything.
Hmm.
And then we go into the corporate world where we still don't it's still that kind of like safety box, because it's like, I know what I have to do every day. I don't have to worry. My routine is done, and you feel accomplished. But when you have your entrepreneurial, it's like, I'm going to go sit in a cafe and read for 2 hours. I can do that.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think one of the most the revelatory things is, yes, it's hard. It is damn hard at times, but the freedom you get from not being tied to someone else's schedule, the creative freedom you get for driving your business the way you want it, or your entrepreneurial journey, whatever it is that you're doing, being the driving force behind that. And actually, it's a revelation when you decide, actually, this isn't working. I'm going to change it up. And you don't need to wait for all the bureaucratic BS. You can just take that decision and action it the next goddamn day if you want to. And that is like, whoa, hey, that, how easy was that? And it was me that drove that, and didn't take an age. And we
Yeah.
can be so much more responsive.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh, my client doesn't like this. Okay, I can change it for the next client, make sure it doesn't happen. Or my client wants more of this, we're adding more of this. Like, it's not like, okay, I have to submit this ticket, which goes to this person, then goes to this person, then it goes to the budget, and then it comes back. 8 years later, it's put into place, and no one wants it anymore.
No,
It's the
exactly.
next day.
Yeah. And I think also, going from corporate to doing this, I mean, I think sometimes it took me a while to get out the corporate mindset and
Mhm.
actually realize, oh, I am in control. Hey, I can do whatever I like. That took a while. So that I think there is a work, some mindset work that ends up having to be done there. Um, but I think I've grown in the short time that I've been out of the city more than I've done in my 12 years in the city. And it wasn't piss easy. It was hard at times. And there were times when I was being pushed and all of that. But striking out on my own, I've grown so much as a person. I've learned so much about business. It's unreal, and that's what keeps me going. even on the days that are hard, the fact that I'm constantly learning, it's just, you mentioned before, at the beginning, before we started recording, that you're a voracious reader, and I feel
Mhm.
like I'm a voracious learner. I thrive off learning new things and implementing it. So in terms of personal growth, it's a whole different field, and I'm absolutely loving every minute of it.
Yeah, it's true. Where I'm a super fast learner. I love learning new things that challenge my brain as well as reading. That's why I read so much, because it's like, this is like when I ask my guests like, "What's your favorite book or a book you suggest?" I'm like, if they've learned something from there, I'm going to learn something as well. So
Absolutely.
I want to steal that knowledge so I have it so I can implement it myself, or see how I can work it into my business. So yeah, it's the greatest thing, because if you're someone who thrives on learning, being an entrepreneur, you get to try so much stuff and learn so much, because you're trying and failing and getting things right, so because everything moves so quickly.
Mm,
But at the same
yeah.
time, things can take so long to get it moving at the same time. It's the weirdest thing.
It is. I was just thinking on that. Yeah, that is kind of, it is odd, isn't it? Because things move fast, but things also move pretty slow. But it's just balancing everything, I think, and not being fed up of. There are times when it can be like flipping out. Like when does this journey end? In the sense of when I'm going to feel like I've made it. The trick is that you've never made it, and there's always things you can do better, and you just keep having to feed that
That
thirst for
need,
knowledge.
yeah,
Yes,
that
exactly.
just
Scratch that itch. Yeah.
it never gets there's not enough books, there's not enough learning, there's not enough time in a day when you're an entrepreneur, like, oh, I want to do this and this. Like, you're like, my goal is to hit this, and then you hit that goal and you're like, before
What's
you even
next?
hit that goal, you're already thinking, I'm like, well, that's not my goal anymore. My goal is like 18 feet, like
Yeah,
18 years down the road. And before you even get to that one, you're kicking it down further down the road, because it's an addiction.
that's right.
It's
It is an
probably the
addiction.
healthiest addiction I know, that I'm okay with.
Mm. Yeah, if there's worse, there's a lot worse more
Yeah,
things that you can
there
be
is.
addicted to. So, actually, that's fine. We can take that. But I do think it is helpful when, as entrepreneurs, instead of constantly setting ourselves a new goal, when we hit one of our goals or we have a success, we have a win, we take the time to appreciate it and not just
Mhm.
move on. Because something I used to do, and I still fall into this trap occasionally, is where I go through the end like, what did I achieve? And I feel like, okay, well, I didn't quite get there on this, but I did do well on this. But it's just all in my head. But when I write it down and I make a column of wins and successes, I'm actually blown away by how much I've achieved in the short space of time that I've been doing what I do. But if I don't do that, then it's very easy for me to feel like, oh, well, you haven't done an awful lot, or to get into that. You haven't gone far enough. But when you document it, when it's there in front of you in black and white, you can't really argue it, can you?
No, for me, it's when I look at my podcast, I'm like, yeah, okay, I recorded an episode, okay, whatever. And then when I'm talking with people, I'm like, I've recorded this, I do that, and they're like, you've
That's
done
a lot.
all that in like, I'm like, yeah, it's nothing, like, it's easy. And
Mm.
but then when I sit down and look at it from someone else's point of view, it's like, yeah, those are a lot of achievements in such a short period of time.
Yeah, I think we could all do with valuing ourselves more.
Yeah,
And maybe it's a throwback for those of us who've come from corporate. Maybe it's a throwback to, you can have great successes in your career, but sometimes you don't get lauded for it. It's just like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, you did well,
Oh,
fabulous.
that, nicely
Move
done.
on.
Okay, moving on. Like,
Yeah,
go on.
exactly.
You want a gold star or something? No, get on to the next thing. But yes,
Exactly.
we deserve the gold star. We're our own bosses. We can give ourselves gold stars.
Exactly. Get the reward charts out.
I think I'm going to make that the entrepreneurial reward chart. Every time you hit a gold star.
Damn right.
Um, Going back to the voracious book eater that I am, we are coming near the end of the episode, and I do want to get your suggestion for a book, because everybody needs a good book to read. What would you suggest for entrepreneurs anywhere in their journey, a good book to read?
I love Fab Giovanetti's Make an Impact. It's the 6 habits of highly influential people. And I just love the way it's written. It's very simple and easy to follow. You can action the recommendations in there really, really quickly. And it's something that I mean, I read it a while back, but I will refer to it time and time again, because sometimes you just need to pick me up, or just to have a reset. And it's a book that I just find is always close to hand, where I can just have a flip through, and it helps me kind of, yeah, feel a bit more optimistic and feel like, yeah, I got this.
I love it. Everybody needs that, just like that one book that's a pick me up or a motivational book, and or something just like, oh, you're right, I need to do this instead,
Absolutely.
or just a reminder. Now, so now we're coming to the end. I'm going to jump off the screen. I'm going to give you up to 5 minutes. You can take it or use as much as or as little as you want. Let my audience know where they can find you, how they can connect with you if they're interested in some of your crazy, amazing services, like your healthy one-on-one food coaching, your month coaching, your 3 month, your amazing other packages that you offer. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, as Phil said, I'm a nutrition and health coach. I help time-strapped mums to take control of their plates and well-being so that they and their families can eat more healthfully. A large part of my focus is actually on nutrition education. So it's going back to basics and making sure that we all understand what eating healthily actually looks like for us. Now, there are general principles of healthy eating that apply to us all, but there is so much more to that, which we can drill into a bit more if you decide to work with me one-to-one, or if you just get in touch to pick my brain. The things that I offer, I work with clients one-to-one and in a group program. I'll be launching my next group program in the next 2 weeks. So I'm really excited about that. But one-to-one is something that is really important to me, because I think that's where the best transformations are made, because you've got me holding your hand, you've got me educating you, you've got me inspiring, empowering you, and keeping you on track. Often we think of our health as a short-term goal. I'll do this program for 3 months. I'll work with you for a month. But the reality is it's an ongoing journey. And we're always going to go from, being really healthy to sometimes not being so healthy. And we're constantly moving back and forth between those states. But I think if we can get the foundationals right, then you're really cementing a healthful lifestyle that works for you. I love food. I may not love cooking, being in the kitchen 24/7, but I think that works to my clients' advantages, because I'm always creating recipes that are simple, quick, and easy to make, that taste damn good, but are full of nourishing ingredients. So that's a key part of what I do. And the other service that I offer is a personalized cookbook, which is your go-to recipes that are simple, quick, easy, but super nourishing, that's personalized to you. There's a huge section at the front which gives you nutritional guidelines that are for you specifically and for your family. And the recipes are not just recipes, they're recipes, but they're telling you why I've included these recipes. You're learning about what nutrients you're getting out of these recipes. There's no talk of calories, no talk of macros, because that's not as important when you're looking at overall health. That's more important for people who want to lose weight or are trying to build muscle. And basically, my aim is always to try and reconnect people with real food, real nutrition, stay away from fads, and just build better habits that serve them, that make them, for want of a better word, help them live their best life. So I offer 30-minute calls that are completely free of charge, and they're no obligation, and they're really there for you to pick my brain, and get to know me, and for me to get to know you, and see if maybe we would like to work together. And if you go to my website, which is www.nourishfoodforlife.co.uk, you can book in for that whenever you please. I'm also on Instagram. Again, my social media handle is at Nourish Food for Life. And, I'm really happy to speak to people in the DMs about any questions they have. So yeah, come and have a chat and get to know me.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Sonal so much for being an amazing guest and sharing her journey and some knowledge about proper nutrition with us here on the show. Of course, all the links will be in the show notes down below so that you can connect with her and bring your nutrition to the next level and your healthy eating as well for your families and yourself, because it's so important, because a healthy mind, healthy body brings a healthy wallet. You got to get all those three in order. So now, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you. I thank you so much. I just can't thank you enough.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the show. I thank you so much. Remember to invest in yourself. Hey, everybody, I want to thank you so much for watching the show and listening to the podcast. As a thank you, remember, you can always head over to my website, feelbetterinc.com, and get free 15 minutes with me to talk about how you can grow your podcast, how to monetize your podcast, or even how to start your podcast. I have helped lots of people, and I want to help you do the same for your business or just for your personal brand. So again, that is feelbetterinc.com. sonal.com. Head over there, book your free 15 minutes, and it'll be a pleasure to help you out. Have a good night, and remember to invest in yourself.